With the growing popularity of English language assessment tests as one of the core eligibility requirements for major colleges and universities in countries like USA, UK, Canada, Australia, where English language is the primary mode of communication, TOEFL and IELTS are the only big players that come to the mind. Even though both of them are more or less similar, there is a very thin line of difference between the two, and students have a hard time choosing between the two tests. So this video is going to cover major differences and help you choose the right test to take. So let's jump right in. Here are 10 key differences between TOEFL and IELTS. TOEFL stands for Test of English as a Foreign Language, while IELTS stands for International English Testing System. TOEFL costs approx $180 or 15,000 INR. IELTS costs $190 or approx 15,500 INR. TOEFL is scored out of 120 marks with 30 marks for each section. IELTS is scored out of 9 bands with a half point increment. TOEFL score is accepted at over 11,500 institutions globally, while IELTS score is accepted at over 11,000 institutions globally. TOEFL offers TOEFL IBT. Some centers also offer TOEFL TBT. IELTS has two test types, IELTS General and IELTS Academic module, also offering IELTS IBT and PBT. TOEFL boasts a total of 4,500 test centers spread across 169 countries. IELTS has a total of 1,200 test centers globally. The IELTS results are out in 2 weeks, while the TOEFL results are out in usually 10 days. The TOEFL examination takes about 3 hours and 15 minutes in total, and the IELTS takes about 2 hours and 45 minutes in total. The TOEFL involves speaking into a microphone, while the IELTS involves a face-to-face session with an examiner. TOEFL results take $18 to send, while IELTS requires only 250 rupees to send the results. The basic outline for both of them is more or less the same. They both judge your English proficiency in listening, speaking, writing and reading. So let's talk about the similarities and differences in details in these sections. Listening in IELTS has 4 parts. You listen to conversations or a lecture. You need to answer the questions while you are listening. You need to write down the spelling of the word correctly, otherwise it is going to be marked wrong. In TOEFL, you have to listen to conversations and lectures. And there are only multiple choice questions, no fill in the gap questions. The main difference between IELTS and TOEFL listening section is that in TOEFL you do not need to answer the questions while you are listening to the audio. Instead, you first listen to the recording and you need to answer the questions after that. In speaking, both the TOEFL and IELTS tests are very different from each other. The IELTS speaking test is a face-to-face, which is kind of like an interview. The examiner will ask you questions and you need to answer them. The questions are based on everyday life. In TOEFL speaking, you need to speak in front of the microphone of your computer. It is more like giving a presentation in TOEFL. There are 4 different set of tasks included, and you have a determined amount of time to prepare for an answer and speak your answer. Writing. In IELTS writing test, you will have 2 set of tasks to complete. In the first task, you have to describe something which can be a map or a chart. In the second task, you need to write an essay. Other than that, there are several question types such as agree or disagree questions, advantages or disadvantages, and etc. In TOEFL writing test, there are also 2 set of tasks. Task 1 is integrated essay, where you will have to read an article and listen to a lecture after that. And in your essay, you must state the arguments of the writer and counter arguments of the lecturer. You have the independent essay, which is quite similar to IELTS task 2, where you will need to write down an argumentative essay, and there are several question types involved. The main difference between IELTS and TOEFL writing is the first task. In IELTS, the task is supposed to be very factual, whereas in TOEFL you have to present arguments and combine information both from the article and lecture in your essay. The 2 tests also differ in how you have to write the answers. In reading, IELTS and TOEFL are both quite similar, where you have to read some text passages and then you need to answer questions based on what you read in the passages. Here are some tips for choosing a test in terms of these 4 sections. Check out which test format you like better, because in the end it comes down to your preference, whether you like to listen to audio before and answer the question later, or answer the questions while listening to the audio. Personally, students would choose the TOEFL test, as even though you might skip out on points while writing down notes, you'll still know the correct and exact answers to all that you have written down, which you can't in IELTS. If you got the word or spelling wrong, you miss out on the point. In both TOEFL and IELTS reading section, there are several question types. Student recommends you to know these question types before the exam, so that you will know what to expect in the test, which will make it easier for you to answer the questions correctly. You also need to have a reading strategy for both IELTS and TOEFL, as reading everything in detail does not make any sense and takes up a lot of your time. Student finds IELTS reading a bit easier than TOEFL, so if reading is not your cup of tea, you may want to take the IELTS. Also consider checking the website for free practice tests, where you will get an idea of the type and complexity of the passages that you have to read. Tips for the writing section. You need to use a broad range of vocabulary and complex grammar in both the tests to show the examiner that you are able to write sophisticated text. From our experience, the IELTS writing section is a bit harder, as you need to write down a lot of different sentence structures if you want a high score. You have to figure out the type of task according to your preferences. Do you prefer describing maps or charts, or do you prefer talking about different arguments? If writing is not your forte, then student recommends you to take the TOEFL exam. You need to filter relevant information that you need in order to deliver a well-rounded and structured answer. You need to determine whether you are more comfortable in talking directly to a person sitting in front of you or speaking into the microphone of your computer. Also consider looking and understanding the various task types of IELTS speaking and TOEFL speaking to figure out which suits you better. Here are some frequently answered questions to help you choose the right test. Which country are you aiming for? Most institutes in the US prefer TOEFL over the IELTS. Other countries such as UK, Europe, Canada, Australia and New Zealand prefer IELTS over the TOEFL. Then there are countries like Singapore and Canada where both the tests are accepted. Other countries like Poland don't require any of these tests. If you have an English medium background, you're eligible to study there. Can you take the IELTS if you want to study in the US? Yes, it is possible, but it depends on the university. Research if your university requires the TOEFL or IELTS or accepts both. Should you take the IELTS academic or general training? Know that if you're a student planning to study abroad, you need to take the IELTS academic test, not the general training. They both are two different types of IELTS tests. So that's it for this video. I hope you got a clear understanding of both of the exams in details and have come to a decision of which exam to take. If you have come to a conclusion and still have doubts, or if you are facing problems to come to a conclusion itself, you can drop us a mail at customer.support@student.com. Thanks for watching.